What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and if you follow the channel, you know that I have been a die-hard real estate investor. However, I have reached the point where I've decided to sell off all of my real estate, all $25 million worth, because the market is high, and I plan on putting 90% of that money directly into NFTs. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you why I think you, if you own real estate, should do the exact same thing. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. Just kidding, guys. However, I would be completely foolish if I wasn't willing to step back and say that I do recognize that NFTs and smart contracts could potentially change the real estate investing landscape forever. Now, I'm not trying to be a doomsdayer. I'm also not trying to lead you down a crazy path. However, I think a lot of our brains say NFTs, cryptocurrency, smart contracts, they're all over here. Real estate investing, stocks, bonds, they're all in their own places and they're not gonna overlap. That's just not true. And I know I've stayed out of this realm on the channel. However, you need to understand that all of these things are starting to merge, and your understanding of cryptocurrency, your understanding of smart contracts and NFTs, I truly believe will be essential when it comes to how you invest in the future. And I think what people don't understand is that I think smart contracts and NFTs will become something that is used within the real estate landscape. And I know that sounds crazy, but in this video, I'm gonna explain how I think those are going to start to be used with real estate and why it's extremely important to you to understand these things as they start to evolve. You do need to understand what is coming into the market and how it's going to affect real estate and how it's even going to be used with real estate. And so in this video, I'm gonna explain NFTs very briefly. I'm gonna give you the layman's term or even the dulled down layman's term version so you understand how those work. I'm gonna talk about smart contracts and I'm gonna talk about how I think they're gonna start to clash and potentially even be used with real estate, not in the metaverse. We're not even gonna dive into the metaverse and all that craziness, but we are gonna talk about how these things are gonna interact with real estate. And if they start to do that, you're gonna wanna be in the loop. So with all of that being said, all that I ask you to do is remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell. And with that, let's jump into it. All right, guys, here is my breakdown or explanation of an NFT. Now, NFT stands for non-fungible token. If you've looked into cryptocurrency, NFTs, smart contracts, maybe this is very basic stuff that you already know. All of these things happen on the blockchain. And my parents were like, well, what's the blockchain? How does it work? There's so much that goes into it that even goes over my head. But essentially, the principle behind it is that it can't be damaged. It can't be accessed. It can't be changed. It can't be manipulated. It is a place where if you have data or a contract or an NFT or anything else, you can actually prove that you have it. A good example of this is I have just got into purchasing shoes. And when you purchase a shoe, especially if you're buying it from StockX or from Goat or for one of these apps, you know, eBay, whatever it is, it gets sent to be authenticated. And you've got all these authenticators that say, hey, this is the real shoe, or hey, this is not. Because when you purchase a shoe, some of these shoes are going for $30,000, $40,000, $100,000. If you're gonna buy a shoe like that, you want to make sure that it is the real deal, and that's why you want it to go to an authenticator. Problem with an authenticator is they make mistakes. They're not perfect, right? Especially if it's just one or two authenticators. And so, you know, they're there to make sure you get the right shoe, but even then, certain shoes will get through. Certain shoes, even though you paid for the real deal, you could get a fake even after being authenticated. And this is why buying shoes is sometimes intimidating. But the same thing needs to happen with real estate. Same thing needs to happen with purchasing a car. The same thing needs to happen with anything, right? If you're gonna pay for it, you wanna know it's the real deal and you wanna know that you actually have ownership of the real deal. Now, when you buy a shoe, every time you then sell it after buying it, it will need to be authenticated again. What's so cool about an NFT for shoes, for example, is if you have a shoe and when it's created, it has an NFT that is put out here on the blockchain. And you just have to believe me on this. I'm not going to explain. That's the question my mom kept asking is, well, but how do you know it can't be manipulated? You got to do your own research on that because it goes deep when it comes to the blockchain and how all that works. But essentially, this gives you, let's call it a sticker, that says, hey, this is the real deal shoe. And so if the NFT or whatever, the smart contract, whatever it is on the blockchain, is sold with this shoe, then it automatically is authenticated. You know you've got the real deal. Now, you could sell the shoe without the NFT, but if they're tied together, you never buy it unless you get the stamp of approval that says it's the real deal. And if you were gonna sell a fake shoe, but the real NFT, well, now your old shoe doesn't have value either. So it wouldn't make sense to do that. So it gives you something that can't be manipulated, can't be changed, that says, hey, this is the real deal, here it is, and it's a package deal with whatever product you're buying. Now, a lot of times with real estate, we've already got this in place per se with a title company. They're gonna go, they're gonna check, they're gonna make sure there's no debt owed on the property. They're gonna make sure that it is the real title of the property. They're gonna do all of that due diligence that you have to pay for to make sure it's authenticated, and then you have ownership of the property. Now, with this ownership, lots of people have gotten their hands in the pot. The government has a portion of ownership with your land and charging you taxes. You've got, the title company that's taking a cut. You've got realtors that are taking a cut. You've got multiple parties that are part of the selling or authentication process. And if you build a home, for instance, if you were able to have more ownership in that, to authenticate it and to have the title and to have that and to cut out these third parties, there would be lots of advantages to that. And that's where we're starting to say, hey, all of these people are selling these NFTs because it can't be manipulated and because it has value and because it's tied to something else and it has all of these different factors that give it value. Well, what if a smart contract or an NFT could be tied to your property? What if that then becomes the way that these transactions happen? Well, a couple things can happen. One reason it would work for shoes is people then resell shoes for more. Same with real estate. Well, if you're the builder of the home and you can make the title of your home an NFT or a smart contract, you can make it so that every time that home resells for more, you can keep a commission on that while also eliminating the third parties. So now the commission isn't going to the title company, it isn't going to all these other people. You've legitimized this property or whatever product you're using with an NFT, and then you can continue to get a commission on that because you are the one that tied an NFT to the property. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen immediately. I'm not saying it's going to happen at all, but I think the likelihood of it happening is very good because I can see all of the advantages to having properties linked up with smart contracts. Here's another time it might happen. Let's say you don't even get rid of the title company. You don't even get rid of all of these third parties that are taking a cut every time a property is sold. But let's say you own a piece of real estate and you say, you know what? For me to sell it, I'm going to tie it to an NFT so that for someone to resell it, it has to have the NFT. That's part of the title. That's part of the transaction. That's part of what needs to happen. There's a lot that goes into this, but I can see the value of it. Because if I own a bunch of real estate, and I know this real estate over years and years and years is going to continue to be resold, I might say, hey, for me to sell it for this next buyer, our agreement is that it is tied to an NFT. It is tied to a smart contract. So that every time you sell it, I get a commission. And the seller will put this in place. The buyer might say, well, I don't want to do that. You might say, okay, I'm not going to sell the property. Well, if the price makes sense and I'm a buyer and I look at it and I say, that's really weird and that's going to suck when I resell it, but I'm getting such a good deal and I'm getting cash flow, I'm getting all these other things. Okay, like maybe I'll buy the property and it's tied to an NFT and it has a smart contract and it has whatever it has that is tied to the blockchain that can't be messed up, it can't be manipulated. Maybe I say, you know what, it's a good enough deal, I'm gonna buy it. Well, now 10 years down the road when I sell it, they've got in that contract that they get a 3%, it's all tied up. That is a very real possibility and a situation that could happen that then is going to be tied into real estate and could affect this landscape. So Am I talking in circles a little bit? Yeah, I am, but the reason I'm talking in circles is because this is something that could forever change the way things work. Now, there are different levels. You could just be a seller and you want to tie it to the blockchain so that you can get commissions down the road, or it could get to the point where people say, you know what? Why do I want to use a title company? Why do I want to use a realtor? Why do I want to use any of these things? Why don't I want to make this property like Tesla's made their cars, where with a couple clicks of a button, I can transfer ownership of my property to someone else. I can skip all of this other crap of waiting for the title company, waiting for the bank, waiting for the realtors, waiting for all this stuff, because all of this is happening on the blockchain. Now, is it terrifying to think that the government can't get their hands on the blockchain, that other people can't get their hands on it, that it's untouchable and you can cut out all of these third parties? Yeah, it's terrifying because that's going to cause total upheaval and a lot of craziness to happen. And the next question is, could that even happen? Will the government have enough of a tie on the way that things already work that they'll make it so that that couldn't ever be something that happens? Yeah, like, I'm not saying this is for sure going to happen, but I see all of the advantages of smart contracts. I see all of the advantages of being able to tie that in, because everyone that owns real estate now, if they see an opportunity of, hey, not only can I sell this property now, but I could get a commission on it forever. And shoe companies say, hey, now every time the shoe's resold, I can get a commission on it. Now every time whatever the product is, I can get a commission on it and I can continue to get that commission. You look at builders of properties, you look at real estate investors that own properties now. I mean, this is something that in my mind, I say, holy crap, this could be extremely advantageous to me. And it's something that won't be advantageous till down the road, but it makes a ton of sense. And I know that I could sell this to someone who's ready to buy at the right price, because they're not thinking about that. They're okay giving it up if they make a profit on the property down the road, because maybe in the smart contract, I put that every owner gets a small cut as the property's sold. You do something in the smart contract to make it advantageous in the future. There's so many things you can do where it has a huge advantage. And that's what it really comes down to, is when you've got something that has that scarcity factor, but also is advantageous to all of the owners through the process, why would they not be okay with it? And if they're not okay with it, why would they not try to manipulate it and use it to its full potential to where they eliminate out all of these other third parties? So for those of you that are out there saying, look, I don't want to look into NFTs, I don't want to look into smart contracts, I don't want to look into the blockchain, that's okay. Right now you can still buy properties. That's still how it's happening, right? You can still get the title the way that it's always been done, and that might continue for a long time. But it also might not. And the biggest reason that I think it might not is because there is so much value behind how it could potentially work. So, have I said indefinitely that properties are going to be sold and tied to smart contracts moving forward, or on the blockchain, or using all of this stuff that for the last couple of years when I've heard about it, I've laughed and said, you're crazy, why should you do it? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe everybody's crazy, but I can see the value in it. And so for me, I've decided it's something that's worth researching. It's something that's worth putting time into. And I think if you're a real estate investor or a homeowner or in business at all, it's something that you should educate yourself with, because there is value there. Now, have I explained the blockchain? Great. No. Have I explained smart contracts? Great. No. I'm sure a lot of this you're thinking, how does this work? I'm just hoping this in your brains has sparked the question of, wow, is this something that in the future it's going to be important to all of us? And if that's true, should I be learning it now? And should I be getting on board now? Because I can see some value here. Now, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you think I'm crazy, if you want me to stay in my lane of real estate, I apologize, because I honestly think that we might be going in a different direction. I think that there's a very real possibility that the blockchain and smart contracts and NFTs and all these things that I still don't completely understand are going to have a role in the future, because I see value in them. So that's the video for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you have a great day.